The arrowhead stitch. Not a stitch we hear too much about these days, but in today's video on how to make an arrowhead stitch, I'm going to teach you just that. What's up everybody? Welcome back to New Heritage Wool, where I share tutorial videos on different sewing techniques and dive deep on different aspects of tailoring, all to help you and inspire you at your projects at home. I also document my personal tailoring projects here on this channel. If you haven't had a chance to go check out my first tailoring project, make sure to go check it out. I'll add a link in the description below. But before I get started, make sure to click on that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and let's get started. Like I said at the intro of this video, the arrowhead stitch is used to reinforce seams. Often the arrowhead stitch is found in western wear, on pockets, or for decoration. So this stitch exists in both the embroidery world and the hand sewing world for garment construction. So for my tutorial today, I will be showing you how to utilize it to reinforce your stitches. It's most often used to reinforce the stitch that holds pleats down, so that will be what I demonstrate with today. But this stitch can also be utilized as embroidery, so you kind of get a 2-for-1 video today, and I hope you enjoy it, so let's get into it. As you can see, I created a swatch that has roughly 2-inch deep knife pleats. I inserted it into an embroidery hoop so I can easily manipulate the fabric and create my arrowhead stitch. I definitely recommend trying to use an embroidery hoop. It doesn't have to be as big as mine. It can be much smaller just to cover the area that you're working on. This just happens to be the smallest one I have laying around. To get started, once everything is secure into the embroidery hoop and nothing's going to wiggle around, I took my ruler and a pencil to mark out an arrow, the shape of a triangle, just big enough to cover the spot I needed. So this was, so I made the arrow about a 1/2 inch wide and a 1/2 inch tall. And of course, this is all determined by what you want the arrow to look like. If you want it to be long and narrow, you can do that. It's really up to you. I tried to do this one just symmetrical. All right, so once you have your triangle size determined, marked on to the fabric, you're going to thread a needle. Now for this, I would recommend thread that is a little thicker than your sewing machine thread. Embroidery thread will do fine. Just make sure that you take the ply down to about 2 ply instead of, I think embroidery thread has 6 ply. And if you don't know what a ply is, I'll put it in the description below to kind of describe what that is so you know what I'm talking about. So once you've used chalk or thread to mark your triangular arrowhead shape on the right side of your garment, you'll want to bring the needle and thread out at the lower left corner like you see here. The lower left corner, bring your thread and your needle and thread all the way through, and then you're going to go to the top of the triangle. Take a small stitch from right to left, perfectly horizontal stitch. Draw your thread through, and then from there, insert your needle at the bottom right corner. Bring it out at the left corner, barely inside the previous thread. Draw a thread through again and repeat the same process over and over, using your marked line as a guide and placing threads side by side until triangle is filled. So depending on how thick your thread is, will determine how fast this triangle will be filled. So that's why I recommend doing a 2, maybe 3 ply. It really depends on the effect you want with this triangle. If you want it to blend in and be invisible almost, go with 2-ply, but if you want it to look crafty or DIY-ish, then go with thicker ply thread. It's really just dependent on dependent on how you want it to look for your own liking. So as the stitch is coming together, you can see that the stitches start to overlap each other, crisscross, and the key part of making this stitch is making sure you follow your lines that you drew with your pencil, and keep the needle horizontal in every stitch whenever you're stitching at the top corner. I know whenever I first tried this stitch, I started slanting and it looked really weird, so I found that the key part is really keeping your needle horizontal with the base of that triangle at every single stitch that you make, and it should turn out very well in the end. So I'm going to finish this up really quick and then show you how I tie off. So when I want to tie off my thread, I typically do the same tie off method everywhere. Anytime I'm hand stitching, I just basically loop through a few stitches about 2 to 3 times, and then I pull my needle back through one of my loops to kind of make a knot. So as flat and as clean as I possibly can. I remember when the very first time I ever tried to hand sew and I needed to knot something off in the back, and I would make an actual knot on the back end, and then everything would be a mess in the end. And so this is how I tie off. If you have a way you prefer to tie off, go ahead. And also, if you have a new method of tying off, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it and maybe give it a go. The end of this, whenever you finish the arrowhead stitch, it should look like a clean triangle with overlapping stitches that fills in the whole entire shape, like you see here. So give it a go. Always do things with a sample first before applying it onto your actual garment or whatever it is you're working. It's kind of just my mad method, is always do a sample and then do the real thing. So highly recommend. So there we have it. That is how you create an arrowhead stitch to secure down any seam lines, such as your pleats, to keep them from opening up. I would like to know if you would ever use this stitch. If you would, where would you use it? Would you use it in the embroidery world, or would you use it more for the utility purpose? And if you wouldn't use it, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear if you think this stitch should be extinct from the sewist world, the seamstress world, embroidery world, what have you. I'd love to hear it in the comments section below. Hey guys, I just want to pop in here really quick to tell you about my free booklet, 6 Tips to Begin Tailoring. If you are somebody who has always wanted to learn how to tailor but was too intimidated by the process, this booklet is meant for you. It's cram-packed full of knowledge and simplified tips to get you started along the way. If that sounds like you, make sure to click on the link in the description below and download your free booklet, 6 Tips to Begin Tailoring, so you can start your tailoring project right at home. So you guys, if you've made it this far and have not yet subscribed or hit the bell for your notifications, make sure to do that now so that way you don't miss the next video. Until next time, I will see you then. Alright, no, my battery's dying, never mind.